And welcome, everybody. I would love to turn it over to Lyndsey Smith, Jesse Masterson, and Travis Lightsey from OU with their presentation, Every Student is Undecided. So you guys take it away.
Excellent. Thank you, Brandy, for the introduction. And thank you all for taking this time out of your morning to attend our session. It is truly an honor and a privilege to be able to be here to present to you all today. This subject is something that we feel like everyone deals with, whether you are a person or administrator that works in a specific college, or if you work with undecided students. We do feel like every student is undecided. So what we hope for you to gain out of this is to get resources and get knowledge and understanding of how to work with these students and how to help them navigate this transition and this process. So our objectives that we want to cover for today is we're going to cover the work that we specifically do with college students in this journey. And we're also going to cover the research and the theory behind indecisions among college students, which is very important. And we're also going to cover the actual decision-making process, as well as how to utilize that information when working with your own students. Now, before we get started, I would like to do a formal introduction just to tell you who you are getting a presentation from. So these are our slightly grainy pictures, but I'm going to introduce each and every one of us and my team. So obviously, I am Travis Lightsey, so I'm the Director for Major and Career Exploration here at the University of Oklahoma. I've been working in higher education for almost 10 years now. I got my undergrad from Oklahoma Baptist University. I got my master's from Cameron University. Lyndsey Smith is our senior Major and Career Exploration coach. She got both of her degrees from the University of Oklahoma, so undergrad and master's in higher education. She's amazing, so go ahead and wave, Lyndsey, just so they know where you are. And then we have Jesse Masterson. She is also an alumni of Oklahoma Baptist University, where she got her bachelor's, and she got her master's in TESOL from the University of Oklahoma. So wave, Jesse. All right, perfect. So I do feel like I'm very biased, but I do feel like I have the most wonderful team. They're very hardworking, very passionate about working with students and really helping them figure out what their passion is. So we are very, very fortunate to be able to be in this position of work in this office. So now let's talk about what it is that we do and the work that we do with students. So what we do specifically in our office is we definitely cover the exploration process, and that's going to start anywhere from prospective students all the way through graduation. And we do this by a number of resources, a number of services that we offer. One of those is our OU courses. So we do teach two specific courses here out of our office, which is one being how to choose a major, which is UCall 2021. And the other specific course is UCall 1030, Exploring Careers. Both of those courses are designed to give a student not only just a letter grade and be something that can go toward any major, but it also walks them through an 8-week process of how to understand themselves, how to know the resources, and how to really connect themselves to careers. We also do presentations for various groups across campus, and that'll include a lot of our freshman orientation classes, different organizations around the university, as well as specific offices, as far as departmental offices that work with students, success centers, things like that. We also do a lot of one-on-one appointments as well. And those one-on-one appointments are going to be divided up into two specific areas. So we do offer our coaching, which are major coaching and our career coaching areas, where we offer individual sessions that focus on the development of decision-making skills. And the other thing we offer is we offer actual academic advising to the student population, especially those that come in as exploratory first-year students. So those students that are listed as exploratory or undecided, they get to be with our office and be able to be academically advised into their specific majors and classes as well. Now, our exact process, and this is something that we do get a lot of questions about when it comes to how we actually work with students. So it's not just, okay, I'm going to tell you what major you have based on, oh, you said you like chemistry in high school, so yeah, let's talk about all the chemistry and science majors. But we actually have an exact process of how we work with students and walk them through this process, and it all starts with them understanding themselves. So we teach these students how to really identify not only just their situation, but also themselves as far as what their values, interests, and skills are, as well as their specific personality traits that can fit into these different academic areas. But we also help them to identify what is keeping them from making a decision, what's leading them to be indecisive, what's leading them to see these things as far as like obstacles that stand in their way, and knowing what questions to ask, not only themselves, but also their academic advisor, as well as family and different resources so that they know exactly what they're going to be looking at. So when we do that next step of exploring the different options and narrowing down their options, now it makes sense to them and it's more intentional to their interests, their needs. So we also help students walk through the idea or the process of how to actually navigate and choose majors. And it's a big deal at OU because we have over 170 plus academic majors for a student to choose from. That can be very daunting when you're thinking about a 17, 18-year-old student that's just coming in and they're expecting to have all the answers right now, and it leads to a lot of anxiety. What we do is we break that down and we help them to know exactly what majors exist and also what paths they lead to. So when we think about this idea of, okay, if I do this major, what is the actual career path that it can lead to? Am I on the right track? What does the world of work really look like? So we get to actually explore those connections and help them get a better understanding and a better clarity of their decision. But then we also teach them how to take action. So actually coming up with an action plan for them to, whether it is to declare a major, whether it is to affirm an actual career decision, whether it is to make an actual advising appointment with their advisor, we teach them how to make that action plan, but also give them that confidence, that empowerment, that yes, this is your decision, this is your action plan, and we want you to be confident in that decision. So now, one of the tools that we use, I'm very excited about this particular tool. There was a lot of work that went into this, is we actually have a choosing a major workbook. And this workbook is designed to not only be as part of our actual UCall 2021 choosing a major class, but it's also a standalone tool as well that any student, any advisor can use as a self-paced tool to walk students through the entire process of indecision, decision-making processes, how to understand themselves, as well as the options and the action plan itself. It has a step-by-step activity and work process that the student can go through. And this is something that is a tool that we like to use specifically for students that are undecided. It doesn't have to just go for a student that is listed as undecided. Any student, no matter what step they are in this decision-making process, can use this tool. And just to give you guys an example of some of the things that we have included in this workbook, we actually have the exact breakdown of the decision-making process from the decision-making wheel, how to combat indecision. We have activities that a student can go through, and they actually will be able to fill in the blanks on a lot of these different things so that they're taking more ownership and going through the exact process of deciding their next step. And this next page, I specifically want to talk about. So this is our major map that's included in this workbook, but it's also included on our website as well. This is a big part of the workbook that we like to use when we're talking about not only just equitable advising and coaching tools, but this is something that is used to make this entire process of indecision, whether you are a student, being undecided on the actual major or the path. This is something that breaks that down in a very digestible form to where a student can come in and have a certain major and know exactly where that pathway is going to lead them to. They're going to be able to have education on the career field, the career cluster that it's under, as well as the actual major path that is used. And what I like about this is that not only is this something that students can use, as well as advisors, but this is something, and I've gotten a lot of information from, and I think a lot of you all in universities have university retention working groups, things like that. This is something that fully addresses those indicators of why a student is not staying, why they are undecided. And it could be anywhere from, and the two biggest indicators that I think the University of Oklahoma has is those financial reasons as well as indecision on their major. This addresses those things in a way that helps shorten the time from the time a student applies to the time they graduate. And that addresses those things very specifically, and it does touch base on the career and academic plan that the state of Oklahoma has for all of their high school K-12 institutions, that they're able to translate what they're doing now in high school into the University of Oklahoma, and to be able to see their actual career plan into fruition, not just from high school graduation, but now college graduation as well. And this is a resource that's available not just in our workbook, but also on our website as well, that we feel very happy and proud of, that does address that individual career and academic plan that a lot of students have coming in. So why do we care so much about this specific population of students, and not just undecided students, but really all students that are feeling any sense of indecision? Is because studies have shown, and it's always hovering around this 60% number, 60% of college students change their major during their first year of college. And for a lot of people, they may seem that like that's a high number. I would argue that that number probably is even higher if a student really is honest with themselves to say like, okay, I came in with an idea of what I wanted to do, but now that I've been exposed to these other majors, these other paths, I do want to change the major. And research has actually shown that, you know, a student will change their majors 2 or 3 times in the entire time that they're in college, and that actually aids them in graduation. So what it does, and what we want to do as far as addressing this student population, is giving them the resources early, teaching them these steps of how to address indecision, so that whenever they do change their major, it's not just haphazardly and just based on a whim. They have the resources available so that they're able to make an educated decision on, okay, now I know that this is the academic major that I want. I won't have to change it now 7 to 10 times. So that's why we want to address that. But then, as Lyndsey showed in the other slide here, so this addresses the other population. When we think about, oh, is it just, you know, students? Is it just 18 to 20-year-olds, et cetera? It is not. When we think about other data that shows 80% of adults are in a career that is not directly related to their bachelor's degree. And I think a lot of people in this session can attest to this. You know, I know I am one of them. And a lot of times when we think about this, and I've been in class and I've had students that have kind of looked at me like, okay, what's the point of having a major because they take it so literal. For example, if somebody says, okay, I love history, I want to be a history major, but I can only be a history teacher or a historian, right? What else is there for history? We talk about this idea of there's so many careers that exist that you don't know about yet. We actually talk about what you're learning within an actual degree, the skills that employers are looking for, and what really gets you hired. And it always falls back on employers are hiring people, they're not hiring degrees. So we focus on not just the process of decision making, but also the idea of learning about what employers are really looking for. And I do have a quick example of this when we think about the process of every single person is making decisions. Decisions do not stop when you graduate. You know, every single student is undecided, and there are different types of indecision. But I do have an example of a student that I had a few years ago that she was not honest with herself in the beginning. She was a nursing student. She came in, her family, they all had nursing and healthcare related careers. And she said, okay, well, it's already set. This is kind of my fate. I'm going to go into nursing. And she had amazing grades. She had almost a 4.0 perfect GPA, got into OU Health Science. She was in her second year, about to graduate from OU Health Science, when she contacted me and said, I cannot do this. And it was at that point she said, okay, I want to be honest. I want to explore the things that I really want to do, but I've been scared up until this time because I feel like it's too late. And what we did was sit down and we really broke it down and say, okay, now this is important. She was expecting a, very confused look and kind of like, okay, why are you doing this? Kind of more skepticism, as opposed to, this is your life. This is what you want to do. These are the decisions that matter and the ones that matter to you. So she ended up going a completely different direction and actually going into library science and majoring in information studies and having a minor in international studies. And we talked about the degree plan itself. And she thought she had to start all the way over and have 3 years. And it was like, no, it only added, 2 other semesters. And that was 1 semester and then a summer session. And she graduated, and she had contacted me and said, I love what I'm doing now. Thank you so much. Like, you gave me the confidence to make the decision I wanted to do. So these decisions are happening not just for freshmen, but across all grades, all grade levels, even grad students. I'm pretty sure you all being adults in this room, there are times that you are indecisive about a lot of things too. So decisions are being made at all stages of life, and we want to make sure that, you know, students know that this is normal. This is not something that's an, you know, anomaly and things like that. So we're going to talk about the decision-making process now.
Okay, awesome. So thank you, Travis, for introducing the work we do and why we do it and why it's so important to us. I want to talk a little bit about the theoretical research behind decision making. It's studied in cognitive and developmental psychology, and it's extremely fascinating. But there's not a lot of research that has been done specifically on college students and how they make decisions. A lot of the research that occurs is about how students are undecided and how they cannot seem to make decisions, not about the actual decisions that they make, or about the decisions themselves, rather. So one of the case studies that we found really interesting when looking into this whole process was from Gordon and Kine in 1989. And their research found that students, college students, you know, they're emerging adults, and so they feel that these important decisions that they're making in college are reflections of who they are, their identity. And it makes sense because whenever students meet somebody new on campus, probably one of the very first questions they're asked is, what's your major? You know, what year are you? And so they start to think of their major as part of their identity. And all of these critical decisions that they're making are also part of their identity. And so they hope that the decisions that they're making will influence the type of person that they hope to become in the future. And this causes them so much stress and anxiety because they're so scared of making the wrong choice, and that being a reflection of who they are as a person and how they view themselves. A more recent study came around in 2014 from Galati, Tandler, and Weiner. And actually, Dr. Galati is one of the lead researchers in this area. And they found that college students actually do consider more than one option at a time, but they often don't spend enough time doing research on all of the options. And they become overwhelmed with the amount of resources and options available to them. And so they looked at students choosing between, you know, majors, residence hall options, student organizations, jobs, what types of classes they want to take. And if you think about a first-year student coming into college, yeah, they have a lot of choices to make, and they're so used to somebody else making choices for them. So it makes sense that they become overwhelmed. And because students are overwhelmed and they don't spend enough time researching options, they tend to make really superficial decisions, and they use faulty decision making in order to make those decisions. Now, the study found that, of course, the more time a student spends on researching options, considering their options, really thinking about why they want it and what they want, they become more confident with the choice that they made, and they narrow down the options and choose things that actually make them happy. Another theory that we use is Lillian Dinklage's taxonomies, and this was developed in 1968, and it was actually from her dissertation whenever she was at Harvard. And she found that people tend to develop trait-like differences or decision-making styles when they approach the process of making a decision. And she said that no matter what type of decision people are making, they really tend to utilize the same sort of style. And so we use these types of decision-making strategies or types of indecision when we work with our college students, because we find that when they're making faulty decisions, they're usually relying on one of the decision-making strategies that doesn't lead them to the best choice for them. And we will talk a little bit more about those specific decision-making styles here in a little bit, but we wanted to open up this question to our participants. In your work with students, what type of decisions do your students tend to struggle with the most? And you can share it, you can unmute yourself and share it, or you can drop it in the chat box. It's up to you. So Megan Denny said what to do after graduation. Absolutely. So career planning, that's a big one. Wes Bush said prioritizing time. Kathy Sawyer said post-internship jobs versus the job search. Allison Limke said, what gen ed should I take? Brandy Gunder-Cox said, my PhD students have trouble identifying research topics, particularly ones that their advisors will support. Cassandra Negron said, what to eat for lunch? I mean, that is a big decision, and majors. Callie Connolly said, how will this degree help me get a job? What types of jobs? Yeah, so as you can see from the chat box, people are sharing their students are struggling with all sorts of decisions, all types of decisions, from smaller decisions to big decisions. And so what we hope to share now are strategies that you can use with your students to really help them narrow down their options.
Okay, so just another question for you guys. What's the hardest decision you've made today? We're spending time making decisions every day without thinking about it and really realizing it. So drop some more in the chat box, or you guys can unmute too. Chat box seems to be the best. What to wear, Brandy? Yes. Are we gonna keep our pajama pants on or not? To have coffee or not? What to pack for lunch? Yes, Allison. Should I wear real clothes or PJs to OACADA? Tall white boots or not after Labor Day? Tough decision. Is 3 cups of coffee too much? Should I sleep in? Yeah. Should I stay in bed or get up to see why my children are crying? Not if they're crying, but why are they crying? So we're making decisions every day. So I wanted to do a fun little interactive thing. And you can choose the side by using the little thumbs up or the clapping hands. But for those of you guys that are breakfast eaters, do you want bacon and eggs or pancakes? What do you guys think? It's hard to see. Okay, now I'm seeing the little things. Awesome. We've got lots of savory people with the bacon and eggs, few of those pancakes. Pancake lovers. I myself like both, but I'd have to choose. So do we like the morning or the night? Our night owls or our morning people? Then our next one. Would you rather be liked or respected? So we get into a little bit of some more difficult decisions. I see lots of respected. Why? Someone tell me why they would rather be respected over liked, or vice versa. It's a very difficult question to answer. Sometimes doing the right thing isn't liked, but most of the time can be respected. It's very true, Wes. It's easier to be liked if you're respected. That could also be true. All right, what's the next one? Would you rather do a low-paying job that you love or a high-paying job you dislike? I might know a lot of the answers that we might see here in higher education. Yep. Maybe some people might have a side hustle for some of the more big bucks. Would you rather follow your passion or follow success? It's very true. I said we're in higher ed, low paying, follow your passion. Yes, some people say, like, I like what Tenet said, hopefully success leads to passion. So you guys see that as we are trying to make these decisions, everyone's got a different perspective. And none of these answers are wrong or right, but we're constantly making these decisions. And as you guys can see, we're making some that are easy, some that might be bigger. And who loves to make big decisions? We all kind of struggle with that. So as we are making these decisions, you guys can see from the research that Lyndsey had started to share that there are tons of different decision-making styles that we go through. And as I read through them, if you guys want to share which ones you relate to the most, there's usually a few that we can kind of be like, man, that sounds like what I do. So obviously we have the planning. So I'm weighing the facts and the pros and cons to really find out which one is the most satisfying. But often, a lot of times we're utilizing a lot of these other ones, like agonizing. Do you get lost in the information and overwhelmed by trying to analyze your alternatives? Are you impulsive? Do you tend to put little thought and just jump to the first option without actually considering the alternatives? A fatalistic will actually determine your decision by the environment around you. So do you kind of leave your decision up to fate? Our paralysis, I find myself in this one a lot. Do you accept a need to choose but cannot seem to approach your decision? Our intuitive goes by that gut choice, like this just feels like the right one. Compliant, do you allow someone else to decide? So you might see this a lot with your students. You know, mom and dad told me this is what I need to do, or my friends are doing this, so that must be the best option. Delaying, do you tend to declare a moratorium, postponing all thought until you absolutely need to make a decision? I also relate to this one. I think, is this all of them? There might be a few more.
That was all of them.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Lyndsey. So I like how everyone's kind of seeing that they have a few that they relate to within this. So as we go through these different decision-making styles, then we can start to look at our decision-making wheel and help our students really figure out what is the best way to go through the decision-making process and spend the time and be proactive in doing the things that they actually need to do to make these decisions. And so they're not putting it off or letting it be decided for them. And so we have this decision-making wheel that you guys have seen is in our workbook. We also have it on our website. And this is the process that we actually go through step by step with our students in our class. So we look at defining and clarifying, like, what is the actual problem we're trying to find a solution to. Gathering facts. So that's where we start to get all of the details, like what is going to influence this decision? What do I want to do? What are my interests? What are my values? What are the things that link to my personality? Analyzing and brainstorming, really thinking through and understanding your situation. The pros and cons. So this is where we're starting to narrow it down and make actual pros and cons lists. What's the time to graduate if I choose this major? What are the prereqs, the GPA requirements, the courses that I have to take? And do I like all of those things? Or what's going to be the most important to me? And then we get to the point where we decide, but that's not the end. As we all know, we make a decision, then we have to actually follow through and start meeting with our advisor, start choosing our classes, being proactive in getting internships, graduating, and then actually applying for jobs with the path that we've chosen. So the way that we utilize this with our students that you guys can also use as you guys are not only helping them choose their major, but making these decisions over time throughout their college journey, is helping first yourself to understand their situation. So what are they actually trying to make a decision on? And also, what is the cause or the root of indecision? So what's keeping them from making that decision? So this helps us to help our students address their indecision first and actually see where the hesitation is coming from. And then we can go into that decision-making style and start talking through that decision-making, like wheel that we have created. Another thing that you can do once you have gained that understanding is then walk through that process with the student, empowering them to seek out these answers, and then offering support as they go through that, but really empowering them to be proactive in that process. And then also, as we all do in higher education, providing those resources, so helping them establish some goals, some action steps, giving them some of those resources that they may not already have connection with, and then also providing them some of those connections and networking. So a lot of us know we have to help make those connections for students if they have questions for financial aid, or if they have questions about a specific major that an advisor or a professor could help answer those questions a little bit more in depth. We're making those connections with them and for them. All right, so we're going to go into case studies. Lyndsey, sorry.
Awesome. Thank you, Jessie. So we are going to practice, and we are all going to practice as a group. And so we have a couple different case studies, and I will read the student situation to you, but then as I'm reading the student situation to you, keep these questions in mind. So, and this is something that you would do normally with a student. So what decision needs to be made? What's the cause of the indecision? What type of decision-making strategy is occurring? You know, is it planning that we really want them to utilize, or is it one of the more faulty decision-making strategies? And then also think about, how would you coach the student through their decision-making? What resources would you provide? How would you empower them to seek out answers and make those connections for them? And so we will go with our first case study about Crystal. So Crystal is a recent college graduate, and she was originally intending to go to medical school, but her GPA has made it highly unlikely that she will be accepted into any programs. She was disappointed at first, but has since accepted her reality, as she lives by the motto, accept the things you cannot change. Crystal recently came across an ad for volunteering in a cosmetic surgery office and quickly decided to inquire about it. After talking to the cosmetic surgeon about the role, she quickly asked to work there for the summer. The surgeon said yes. Seeing this as a sign, she learned everything she could about the job itself in her first few weeks there. She was able to talk to prospective patients, meet with post-op patients, and take part in educational seminars. Shortly after, she quickly made the decision to pursue an advanced degree in medical administration, as this was the option that came up at the top of the Google search when looking into jobs that related to this area. So for Crystal, remember, these are the questions. So you can share in the chat box, or you can unmute, it's up to you. So let's talk about this. What decision needs to be made for Crystal? What's the cause of the indecision? And what type of decision-making style is occurring? Come on, teams. Oh my goodness. Yes, I can definitely show the questions again. So fatalist, yeah. So these are the decision-making strategies, if you want a refresher. Was that PDF pulling up for everybody? Okay. Yeah, so the decision is which career to pursue. And then a couple people said fatalist, impulsive, absolutely. So Crystal is really just kind of going with the very first choice that sounds good. She Google searched and she's like, yeah, that sounds fine, I'll do that. And so for the second question, how would you coach this student through their decision making? If you were working with Crystal, what would you help her with? So we have some folks saying, asking, what is it about this path that aligns with your values? Absolutely, because remember the first step in choosing a major that we use with students is we help them understand their self, their values, interests, skills, personalities. So absolutely. Shadow someone in medical administration, gather information. I would encourage her to explore more options and the reasoning behind her choices. Absolutely. So we're empowering the student to gather that information, to really think about it, analyze it. Awesome. And then the last question, what types of resources would you provide? The decision wheel, awesome. So career services is a really awesome resource, absolutely. And we work closely with them for to help students. They kind of triage and support them in that way. Oh, and also connecting with those already in the field, absolutely. So something that we do in our classes that we teach is we tell students, or we teach students how to do informational interviews and how to gather information from professionals working in the field that they're interested in. Yes, introducing her, so networking, introducing her to people or a mentor who may have been in a similar situation or are experts. Awesome. So that is the very basic method that we use with students whenever we're working with them. And of course, it's something that you all do every single day in your work as an advisor. We also have the other case studies if you would ever be interested in reading over those. This will be included in our presentation that the planning team will post on the OACADA website. So thank you all for participating in that.
Awesome. Thank you, Lyndsey, and thank you all again for participating. So as we come to the end, just to kind of go over a review of the things that we did cover today. So hopefully you were able to see the exact way of how we work with students here at the University of Oklahoma. Hopefully you were able to gather more in-depth information about the research and the theories behind the tools that we have developed and how we're addressing indecision amongst college students. The decision-making process itself. Hopefully you learned a lot more about not just decision-making or levels of indecision, but also the types of decision-making that students as well as everyone goes through. And hopefully your takeaway from today would be how to utilize this information with your own students. So I know every single institution is different. We think about different student bodies. Hopefully you'll be able to utilize these, adapt this information to be able to address the specific needs of your own students. But as we wrap up and that we come to the end, we want to open up the floor to specific questions and answers and comments. So we want to take this time to be able to address specific questions. So if you want to unmute yourself and ask questions, or you can post them in the chat, we would love to address any questions that you guys have now.
Something I wanted to add just very quickly, if you have questions about where to find our resources, that's all on our website, and it's just this link right here. Or if you Google OU Center for Major and Career Exploration, we pop up. We're the first link.
Okay, y'all, I'm going to throw out some housekeeping stuff. Please continue to use the chat to ask questions. But just as a reminder, in the chat, you now have links to both the session evaluation, which you please submit for each session that you visit today, There's also a conference evaluation link. This is the first time we've had to do it like this, I'm sure you know, so every little bit of feedback helps. The next session will begin at 11, and the link to that is also in the chat. So thanks, guys. Great presentation.
Yeah, thank you all. And I'm going to go ahead and address really quick. Wes Bush did ask a question about how we've built relationships with the other offices across campus. And believe it or not, that was a fairly easy thing for us to do. You know, we don't believe in silos. So we do like the idea of like our resources are available to every single office, whether it is career services or scholars advising or any other advising office or college on campus. So all we've done is we were proactive in reaching out to these different departments to not only explain how to utilize our resources and how we help students, but also the big question is, when do we refer students to your office? You know, when, you know, understanding like what indicators really pop up when we're working with students. So we just really made time to meet with the different departments to have those meetings and have those continuous conversations, as well as to make sure that our resources are accessible to all of these offices as well. So not necessarily saying, okay, we have this, but you know, you have to really try to go search for, like, we wanted to make sure that everyone has this information. So that's why our link on our website is here included on this presentation. That's why our resources are right there on our website as well, is that anybody would be able to utilize these, but we still offer different departmental trainings and walkthroughs and things like that, especially over our new tools and our assessments. So it's very easy for us to make those relationships and build that trust so that we're all in the understanding of we're in this together. We're in this to help students and support students. That's the big goal of why we work in higher education. So that's, you know, that was our method for that. Thank you for the other question, Wes. The presentations themselves. So like our presentations, you know, that we offer, I mean, a majority of them are offered for different courses, but we do offer other platforms as well when we think about, especially now, not just the different various groups, different departments, but even the way we offer presentations. So we've had to adapt, of course, thinking about more virtual, just like this conference now, thinking about presentations that we've had to go in and actually record to provide to different entities, and, you know, just offering those different ways as well. And a lot of the stuff that we're developing even now are like more virtual tools, more virtual like modules to be able to, for student to be self-paced and walk through.
So if you have any other questions that you didn't get to ask, or if you think of any later, our email address is just exploremajors@ou.edu. You can also give us a call. That's Travis's direct line, so you can leave him a message. Feel free to reach out anytime. We're more than happy to help you. And thank you all so much for coming to our presentation today. So I'm going to turn it back over to Brandy. Thank you all so much.
Again, thank you, Lyndsey, Travis, and Jesse, for all the work you did today. Just keep reminder, the next session starts at 11. And if you have not had the opportunity yet, the keynote session for today's conference is actually live on the OACADA website. So whenever you have a spare moment, you want to go check it out, please do. In the meantime, I will see you guys at the next session.